Hello.
Hey, happy happy whatever day it is for whoever's watching this. For us, it's Tuesday. If you're in Japan, it would be Wednesday. Uh, and maybe if you're watching us on some other day, it's maybe even Saturday. My name is Nim. I'm the technical evangelist here at Kintone, and I'm joined by my colleague and developer advocate and learner extraordinaire, Genji.
Hello.
Genji, I want to thank you for being here with me today. Uh, we've got a lot of fun like DevOps stuff to do today as we Frankenstein collide the um, the plugin the Kintone plugin template with the React with the Create React boilerplate, and so get excited because it's going to be a very beautiful mess that we're going to make today. We're going to learn a
Sounds
lot.
good.
We're going to learn a lot. So what? So Genji, would you? I'm putting you a little bit on the spot over here. So if this
Mhm.
works, great. If not, that's okay too. But can you recap for us what we've spoken about so far?
So in our previous live stream, we went over what is exactly going on behind the scenes when you run npm run build. We were uh, then we took a look at create React app, simplify the boilerplate code, and we were in the process of establishing a settings page for the Kintone plugin. And of course, we're starting off with a plugin, table utilities plugin, which is written in jQuery, and it's for Kintone uh, database platform. And we were converting it over to a React based project. And I believe we stopped at after finishing config.js and config.html.
Yeah, that's right, Genji. So here I am. I just pulled up the old school table utility plugin. You can see we've got some jQuery in here. We'll uh, we'll be touching that later, not today. Um, and I want to take the time right now to remind our viewers or introduce them. This is their first time to the layout of a Kintone. Ultimately, it's like an extension that's run on your Kintone development on your Kintone platform, and administrators can install the plugin like a Chrome extension on Kintone. They'll need a zip file to do it. And what you may ask is in that zip file. Well, that zip file has got just like every plugin needs some behavior some action that it's taking. It needs some way to be configured, and it needs some way to be like listed in a list of plugins to be identified. That's all the information that we've got over here. And the manifest.json file is the place where all of that information hangs out. So let me call out a few interesting places to about that manifest JSON file. So first of all, let's start at the bottom. First of all, at the bottom, we'll skip a whole bunch of stuff. We've got that name, description, and home page. This is going to be for the list of plugins so that we can recognize it in the list. And then we also have icon, which is going to show us like an icon for that plugin in the list. Then, as I mentioned, we need a way we need like scripting that's going to modify behavior and scripting that's going to handle a user configuring the details about behavior. So that's what config is. It's for all the information regarding configuring behavior. And then we've got desktop, which is the files that are going to be executed, the JavaScript files that are going to be executed on the front end when they like client side executed code when a user hits various different pages in Kintone. So that desktop, you may also see mobile. We don't have mobile specific code right now, so it's just JavaScript. But we're going to focus today on well, we are focusing in this plugin largely on the config area because we need some HTML to build us a configuration page. We need some CSS to tell us how to style that page, and we need JavaScript to tell us how that page is going to behave, as well as a place to define any required parameters, places where a user has to fill things out in order for the configuration to be saved. So this is going to make up a manifest file, manifest.json file. And notice that these different keys link to values that are arrays. This is a list of all of our configuration JavaScript, and it tells us where it lives in our source code. So here we've got source code that lives in the JS folder, and it's the config.js and the Kintone config helper. You'll notice also there's a link in here. This is a link to the jQuery library, which is hosted on the Kintone CDN. Why is this important? Well, this and the CSS and the HTML, these are like our references. This is like when a plugin is uploaded into Kintone, Kintone looks at this manifest file to tell it how to interpret the directory structure and to tell it where it needs to go to get what it's looking for. So if we're going to smash this plugin template together with React boilerplate, we're going to need to like redo these links to point to the code that we are going to be using to build this plugin.zip file. That make sense? All right, cool. So let's flash back now to the React table utility plugin. Here I am with my boilerplate code. Let's make this a little bit simpler right now. So what we did was we spun up npm create React app. We had some boilerplate and we started to modify it to meet our needs. We put some JSX in here, some like essentially templated HTML that lives inside of this JavaScript file, and that when we run our React development server, this code will display HTML for us to interact with. Some points about this code. First of all, we're not making any get calls. We're not interacting with the Kintone API and getting any data in any way. So this, if we were to run it, it's just going to render some HTML, and it's going to look a particular way because we've put in the CSS from last time, right? Now, developing plugins on Kintone, there are some manual steps that can be a pain to do if you're doing them manually. So for example, every time I update this, so typically when I'm doing plugin development, every time I update the source code, I need to package the plugin. I need to run some kind of command that's going to tell my machine to comb through my code and spit out a zip file. And then what I need to do is I need to upload that zip file to my Kintone environment, so that then I can test. I can then interact with the code on Kintone and make sure that it's working. Now, typically, that's, I mean, if in a development process, for me to do that every single time I make a change is kind of a pain. So I want to figure out how can I basically automate this build pipeline so that I am not like packaging a plugin and uploading it manually to the Kintone website every single time. And that's what, and Kintone has released two command line tools that are very helpful for exactly this endeavor. One is called Kintone Plug-in Packer, which takes in your code, reads the manifest file, takes in your code, and spits out a plugin. And then the second one is called Kintone Plugin Uploader, which takes in your Kintone environment and your username and your password, and then essentially logs into your Kintone environment programmatically through the command line, and then uploads the file, your plugin from there. So these are command line tools. So we can use npm to automate parts of that build pipeline, ideally the whole thing. And so what we want to do in order to do that, we're gonna high level of what we're going to do is we're going to build that manifest file so that we are pulling the right files, and then we need to define where that plugin zip file is going to get spit out. And then once we set up that manifest file correctly, that plugin manifest file, we'll then start to npm install a bunch of different tools that are going to let us do some cool scripting, and that will be our time for today. Genji, any questions before we begin? I want to make sure we understand what's happening at a high level.
So we're going to go through and try to set up. We're going to set up our developer environment so that we'll automate our. Your expression was a development pipeline?
Yeah, like our build pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a little tricky because we're living inside of React boilerplate, so there's a lot of sophisticated stuff that's ordinarily behind the scenes,
mm-hmm.
And that we're going to be touching some of it. So it might look intimidating. What I'll say is that part of me regrets using Create React App, to be honest with you.
Okay.
There's just so much going on behind the scenes that it's intimidating to touch. And so it presents a barrier to our listeners, because it can be intimidating. But what we're going to do is I'm going to navigate to exactly what we need to do and what we need to change, so that we can ignore most of the boilerplate, and the stuff that is, scary, we'll just talk about. But if you wanted to start a React, if you wanted to like bake React into a Kintone plugin from scratch without the use of Create React App, it might look a little simpler. Actually, we might do it a different way. So maybe we'll do that maybe we'll try that out next time.
Okay.
All right, but for now, we got what we got, and so let's take a look at the build folder over here. So this build folder, and this static folder in particular, this is what gets spit out whenever we run a command called npm run build. Npm run build is going to have npm go through the files in the source code and use a tool called webpack to package those files into JavaScript. Right, and the files don't look very user-friendly.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. And so we want to, but these are the files we need. These are the package files, and what we're going to do is we're going to be targeting these files with our plugin manifest JSON file, because this is the stuff that we want. And we're going to do the same thing with the CSS. Again, this is ugly stuff. And so what we want to do is build that manifest file. And actually what I'll do is I'll grab this manifest file from here. Let's copy, and we'll paste it. Where are we going to paste it? We are going to paste it. Oh, where did my cursor go?
So you were. Can I ask a couple questions about the manifest file?
Yeah.
So the manifest file provides information for both the developer or anybody who's going to reopen their code, but also for React when you're running the npm run build, correct? And is it you were mentioning earlier about linking files? So linking JS files, appropriate CSS files, and CDN links. Is that correct?
Can you repeat the question again?
I just wanted to confirm my understanding about the manifest file. So we need to make sure that we have the appropriate CDN links,
Yes.
and JS and CSS and HTML files listed
That's
in
right.
there.
The manifest file is the key, is sort of like the missing link for how to turn our directory of code into a into like something that's machine readable and interpretable.
Oh, hi. Okay.
Genji, I'm having some trouble with the monitor
Mm-hmm.
where I've got this shared display. So I'm gonna see if I can troubleshoot that real quick.
Okay.
Um, and let's see. Oh wow, yeah, that's super weird. That explains it. Um, this arrangement was not. So,
Mm-hmm.
so interestingly enough, when I changed the resolution of the screen to be more easily readable by our viewers, um, it changed its placement in my monitor arrangement. So I'm just giving it a quick touch up right now, and I
Oh, I see.
believe,
Yeah.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, so sorry about that behind the scenes stuff. Let's go to the interesting part. Okay, so we're going to put manifest file alongside package.json. No, not over there. Come on. Cancel. And let's try this again. Come on, come on. This is not the interesting part. This is the boring part. We want to get through this stuff so we can do the interesting stuff. Okay, let's try moving this out. Cancel. All right, I'm gonna try doing this one more time. Um, we're gonna close this build file and let's try this again. Paste. Oh my gosh, what's going on? All right, we're gonna. This is Genji. This is painful. This is like a. This is like remedial. Here it is.
I'm sorry. I lost track. I was trying to follow what folder you're on, but you gotta kind of when you're ready, can you pause and
Absolutely,
uh
absolutely. We're gonna make that a lot easier to follow. What I did was
mm-hmm.
I dropped my manifest.json file in the same level, in the same directory level as my package.json file.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So now what we need to do is so I imported this package.json file from, looks like I did some of the work already. So we're going to reverse some of this. You'll notice this, I've already made some of the changes.
Mm-hmm.
So I've called out specific files that are going to be referenced. So inside of the build folder, inside of the static folder, inside of the JS folder, there is a file called blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice I'm not taking the source map. I'm just taking the file.
Yes.
Okay?
Why?
The source map is there for debugging. It's not there for
Production?
it's not there for production. Yeah.
I
Well,
see.
all of our debugging is going to be done, well, inside of this, how do we want to say this? It's going to be done inside of a Kintone environment. We could add the map. We're not going to.
Okay.
Perhaps we are being overly optimistic. I guess we'll see.
That's for next episode.
Yeah. I want to emphasize we're being a little casual over here. What I want to do is more than anything else, I just want to get like proof of concept, get the gist of the thing, and we can cross the T's and dot the I's some other time. Now, eagle-eyed viewers will notice that these two chunks are the same for desktop and for config. I must admit I'm cheating over here. In a actual environment, we'll need a separate JS file for what's happening on desktop and another JS file for what's happening in the config. Now, from a Webpack perspective, that actually implies we've got two entry points. An entry point is what you can imagine is like two places where, like, when you run Webpack to interpret this source code and turn it into production files, it needs to start somewhere. So you tell Webpack where to start. And inside of the Create React app, Webpack knows to start in a file called index.js. And then it like a spider in a web, it like goes from strand to strand. It says, oh, we need to import app from the app file. Okay, we're going to go over here. We're going to import this file. Oh, we need to import config.css. Oh, we're going to import this file. Oh, is this there's nowhere else to go over here. Okay, great. We'll take this. So like we spider out and we get coverage of our source code in that way. But with the Kintone plugin, the config side and the desktop side, they actually never touch. They're never like calling each other. They're never referencing each other. So we need to tell Webpack to go to these two different places in our source code and build two spider webs, basically. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yes.
Yeah. So we're not going to do that right now. But that's why I'm saying I'm cheating. The important thing is just to realize that like we will need two entry points. Right? So I've grabbed this code. I've grabbed runtime main. Now you might be asking like, why isn't it all just one thing? Which I think is a really valid question. And I'll just quote from the React documentation over here that I've got pulled up. That number 2.d20cd882, that's our app. So that's this could be vendor code or code splitting chunks. Vendor code includes modules that you've imported from within node modules. And there are particular performance improvements to that. Then we have runtime main, which is a small chunk of Webpack runtime logic, which is used to load and run your application. We might not need this. And but what we really need is main. That main file, that's our application code. So we definitely want this. We'll go ahead and we'll copy this relative path. We'll come back to the manifest file. And let's add it to the config. Just like that. All right, and we're going to do the same thing with CSS. We can get the relative path of the CSS. And what's neat about copy relative path is when we paste it in a file, it'll automatically like connect them so we don't have to like figure out how many slashes and periods we need in order to have one call the other the way that it's supposed to. Oops, there we go. Manifest objects. All right, so there we go. There's our CSS. There's our JS. Here we're cheating. This should be replaced, and we got the names. And there's one required parameter right now, which is number. Okay, so this is our manifest file. It looks pretty ugly.
Yeah.
It looks pretty ugly. Yeah, we're like stitching the body together right now. Two different kinds of template code. Now I got to be honest. I've always wanted to do this. Ever since I started playing around with Kintone plugins, I knew that manifest file will allow us to create alternative directory structures than the ones that were templated. And I don't know, it was like scratching an itch for me. Like I always wanted to like create a very untraditional plugin setup. I guess here we are. My dream is being fulfilled as we speak.
I'm glad.
Good. So this is our manifest plugin, and this is our manifest file. So what's going to happen from here? So this is going to be a key part of our build pipeline, because from here we want to start building what's going to happen when we to get from source code to a plugin in a Kintone environment that's ready to print. So what we need is that source code is going to be compiled, quote unquote, compiled from, well, I guess we could call it compiled. It's going to be compiled from Webpack. So it's going to get split out into those ugly looking JS files that we were talking about. Then the next thing we need to do is to have something turn those JS files. So the next thing we need to have something do is to read that manifest file that we just updated, grab those JS files, and package them into a plugin. And then the next step is going to be to take that plugin and upload it into Kintone. Okay, so for this we use scripts. Now here I am in the create React app package.json, and I'm going to readily say that this is one of the downsides of using create React app is there's a lot of sophistication going on in the background that we just need to sort of navigate through and not be scared by. So there's a lot of stuff in this package.json file. It's pretty sophisticated. And it looks, I mean, gosh, look at this thing. This is really imposing. And so we need to know what to ignore, okay? And so a lot of this stuff is basically telling Webpack what to do with what files and where to look at them, okay? Well, actually, this is for Jest. This is a testing framework. So this is information for like other build tools. We need to know how to this is Webpack information about how to package the plugin with code that's going to work in different browsers. ESLint config is going to be to set up our linter to recognize certain commands and not throw us warnings or errors. Just really quick, Genji, how familiar are you with linters?
Not much. I have only known to run through to make sure that our API documentation is in the consistent format for our JavaScript sample code. That's it.
Perfect. Yeah, linting is really helpful when we're in VS Code because it will it'll keep our notation clean. It'll keep our code clean. Okay? It'll throw us warnings or errors if we need to make any change. Okay? I'm skipping scripts because that's the important part. We're going to come back to that. And here we go. Here's a list of dev dependencies. I'm sorry, these are just regular dependencies. And then we've got the name of the plugin, the version. Let's go back to the scripts stuff, okay? Because this is what lets us go into the code and say something like npm run. We've got three options over here: start, build, and test. Start is going to call this script file, which we touched on last time. And what it did is it was this very complicated looking, like this is how we're going to spin up a development server and a production environment, and we're going to use Node in these ways, blah blah blah. Lots of this is create React app stuff. This is very complicated. We don't really want to touch this. What we want to do. We want to use build because build is what's going to get us our production code, and then we're going to want to add some other stuff. Okay, so what other stuff are we going to want to add? Well, let's start by adding Kintone Plug-in Packer. And so what's happening right now is we're downloading Kintone Plug-in Packer. After that, we're gonna download a few more packages. And while that's happening, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start downloading some other stuff as well. Okay, we're gonna npm install Kintone Plug-in uploader.
Go.
Oh. Let's keep up screen dependency. Looks like. So let's just take a quick look at what's going on over here. It's saying we've got a dependency that hasn't been resolved. This looks like an issue with Babel. Babel is something that's going on behind the scenes that lets us basically take the pseudo JavaScript code that we're writing and turn it into real JavaScript and have Webpack turn it into real JavaScript. It's what has JSX become JavaScript. It looks like we had this issue as well. Let's just take a quick look over here, see if I didn't mess anything up.
Do we need to make sure we have the correct version of Babel in that directory?
Yeah, maybe. Well, let's take a look. So, Babel. It's in. The issue is. Okay, so here it is. 7.12. Okay, it looks like we need to update. So I'm gonna do some more cheating over here. This Babel, this package lock.json file, this is what freezes the files so that they don't get automatically updated. We're gonna get rid of this. The package lock. We can always bring it back later after our updates happen. Let's try this again. Let's try this again. I'm not sure why this is taking so slow. I'm wondering if it's the effect of the stream. In any case, I'm going to start talking about some other tools that we're going to need, because what we want to do is we want to set up. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to pack the plugin. So we're going to need we're going to have that tool spit out a zip file. We're going to have a plugin uploader is going to refer to some, it needs a username and a password and a Kintone environment. It's going to take those variables in, and then it's going to upload the plugin to that destination. Now, for those of you who have used Kintone Plug-in Uploader before, you'll know that it can prompt you in the command line for that information. Oh, this is still no good. All right, let's try this again. And what we're going to do is we're going to force. We're just going to force this. npm fix the upstream dependency conflict. What's going on? Bunch of jest stuff. We need to worry about that. Babel core. This is more. The justice, we don't need it because it's testing things. We're not doing any testing. Let's do a quick Google search and see what the deal is. Maybe there's like a quick way that we can fix this. npm fix upstream dependency conflict. And it looks like this is a problem with peer conflicts. So what we're going to do is, and I'm just reading this straight from the Stack Overflow, so I don't want to take any credit for this, other than thinking to Google things. We're going to add this. We're going to add this flag to try. And what this does is it's going to make it work. And if it doesn't, we're going to force it. It seems to be an issue with the peer dependencies in the in npm. Let's see if that helps. All right, in the meantime, I was talking about how the Kintone plugin uploader is looking like if you run Kintone plugin uploader on the command line manually, it will ask you for, hey, what's your environment, what's your username, what's your password. And what we want to do is we want to automate that. Right? I don't want to be putting in username, password, and an environment every time I want to upload the plugin. So I need some place where I can put that information. Unfortunately, that's what environmental variables are for. So I can create a new file. It's going to be a create a new file. There it is. Okay, we're going to call this .end. This is a place where where our environmental variables are going to hang out. And what this needs is just a simple list of keys and values. So we're going to need a key for Kintone URL, and we'll need one for Kintone user. and I need one for Kintone password. Okay, and we'll put that information in over here. Now this is secret information, and what you're counting on is your get ignore file. Make sure that this doesn't upload your environmental variable file up to GitHub. So what we can do is we're going to add that in here. Add that in. And it looks like, oh, awesome. It looks like we've added the package. This seemed to fix the issue.
No.
And we'll do the same thing over here, but we will add that flag. What was it? It was legacy-peer peer. Okay. So let's talk about using these variables in the command line. Okay, so if you've attended some of our workshops before, you may have attended workshops where we've talked about using environmental variables and dropping them into the source code. And we lean on Node for this. There's a Node method called process.env, which then automatically, well, not automatically. Sorry, there's an npm package called .env, and what it does is it will read this environmental variable file, and then it will add keys to a Node method called process.env, and then we will be able to refer to like process.env.kintone_URL inside of our source code. But it's a different ball game when we're calling on these environmental variables outside of our source code. We're actually going to be doing it in the command. And so we need additional tools to do that. And so I'm going to npm install something called .env-clee. What that'll do is it'll enable us to use .env in the command line and call our environmental variables in this way. While I'm going to do that, we're going to wait for that to finish. Okay, and what's going to happen next is when we use environmental variables in the command line, we now need to be conscious of what our operating system environment is. Because if we're using Windows, Windows is going to treat variables and scripts differently than Mac will. One might use a $sign to reference a variable, another would use a percent to reference a variable. So we need a way of standardizing our use of scripting variables in a command line environment across platforms. With me so far?
Okay, that makes sense. That it becomes universal.
That's right. And so we're going to install another package. This one's called Crossbar. And it's going to allow us to,
sorry about that.
Use variables across different operating system platforms. Okay, so we will npm install Crossbar. Okay. And now we're starting to get somewhere. How are you doing so far, Genji?
I'm good. A lot of package installing. I'm just taking memos of that. npm run.
And Genji, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our username and password in the development environment. Okay, I'm going to make it public so that anybody who watches this video will have that username and password. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change that password later.
Hmm.
Okay, so uh, here we go. We're going to put in this URL, and we're going to put in the name of our user, which we're calling developer, and then we're going to put in the password. Is going to be this string, which we will then go back and change its, hit it. Let's do this. And back to package JSON. Okay. So let's see how are we doing on these. Are we done in these installed packages? We're almost done. And while that's working, why don't we go ahead and start with we'll start messing with our package declaration. So I mentioned to you earlier that we've got these scripts, and we could, as you see over here, these are our key value pairs associating a defined this is where a command gets defined, like npm run test, npm run build, and you can do a few things over here. You can reference a script file. You can batch. Conceivably, I can say like uh, npm run, all, and I can say, you know, start build test, and so it'll reference these other commands. Or I can build the command over here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to build the command over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a command called right. So what are we going to do? What we're doing is we're saying, hey, I want to run a command called npm run pack. And when I do that, I want the plugin to be packed. And
Hmm.
so we'll call Kintone Plug-in Packer. Okay, and we're going to issue the command over here, and it's going to be the same command every time. Now, um, so for those of you who are not familiar with the Kintone Plug-in Packer command, I invite you to go to npm and use the npm page as a way to understand what's going on with this command. Um, what we need is we need a place where we tell it where to put the plugin, like what our output directory is. And then if there's already a plugin, we need to tell it to recognize the existing plugin via its private key. I mentioned before that each Kintone plugin has is a zip file, but that actually wasn't the whole story. It also corresponds to a small PPK file, a private key, and that's like the fingerprint of the plugin, and that fingerprint allows us to like when we are iterating development of an existing plugin, it's like, do we overwrite the existing one or do we create a new one? And so the key like putting in this key tells Kintone Plugin Packer like, hey, we're going to overwrite the plugin that's got this key, or we're going to create a new one. Okay. Now we actually don't have a plugin file just yet. So what we need to do, because Kintone Plugin Packer is looking for an existing key, what we need to do is actually give it a key first. I'm sorry, we need to when I say give it a key first, what I mean is you need to actually Kintone Plugin Packer plugin the first time outside of the build pipeline. That way it will generate the right file. And what I'm doing right over here is I'm including the relative path. Um,
Oh, for the private key, yeah.
yeah, exactly. and then I wanted to create the plugin in the location where it is. So I'm going to use this query to reference the current folder. And I'm going to hit start, and it should work. What I'm expecting to see is oh no, my bad. No. So silly. I was saying we need to do it out of the build pipeline first. So actually, what we need to do is just build the plugin first, and then we will reference this private key inside of the build pipeline instead of that script. Andrew, you with me so far?
Yes.
Okay, so here we are. We just packed this plugin. It says succeeded. Here's where we can find it. Okay, and what I'm going to do is when we now go over to this React table utility plugin in VS Code, I'm expecting to see a zip file and a PPK file. Okay. Now, where are they? Maybe they're in a folder outside of the window. Okay. Yeah. So if we, they were actually created in the folder that is above the directory over here. So I made a mistake in outputting the file. We could try it again. And then what I'll expect to see is that it actually gets created inside of the current folder. What's happening over here? Yes, okay. It looks like the default behavior of the plugin packer is to okay. The default behavior of the plugin packer let's see if this works. One of the things that I really don't enjoy doing is messing with relative paths until the damn thing works. So what we're going to do is we're going to say in the current folder, go up to the folder above it, and go down to React Table Utility Plugin, and let's see if this works. And if it doesn't,
oh yeah.
There it is. Okay, so streaming live. Oh, this is still not where I want it to be. So we're going to go one level down.
Oh, that's right. You have a folder inside the folder. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, and you know what? I'm just going to throw in the towel over here. I don't think this is a good use of our time together. I'll just acknowledge that I'm grabbing Finder and I'm just dropping these bad boys in there. Okay. There they are. Here I am. Here are these files. Plug in private, and here I should see them inside of my environment over here. Oh, oops. No, that's, oh boy. I'll do that I was in the wrong folder. Can you believe it?
Oh no. Okay.
Okay, it's no big deal.
Just have to find it
I'm
again.
gonna drop them in right over here. And we should, did you see that change just propagate?
Yes.
What I did is I just opened up Finder and I dropped them in. Okay. Now I've got this really long, what the heck is this file? This is our fingerprint. All we need to do is rename this to private.ppk. Let's keep this real simple, okay? So now we've got private.ppk, we've got plugin.zip, okay? And now we want to tell our package.json file. Where did we go? Okay, here we are, pack. So let's try this again. So what we're going to do is find me the file private.ppk, and then I'd like you to output the plugin in the current directory. So I want to acknowledge something. So with this package.json file, the relative path is different from, may have been different from the relative path that was over here.
Okay.
Failed to save. Please compare. Okay, looks like we're.
Oh, you were editing the file at 2 different locations? Okay, yeah, and you added.
So we added crossbar, we added that. We gotta add these bad boys in. So, discard your changes. We're gonna discard our changes, refer it back to file contents. Make sure, yep, okay, we got all these additional packages that we added. Let's go back to pack. And then over here, we'll do Kintone Plug-in Packer. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So, the private key is used essentially to make sure that we're when we're re-uploading it, we could verify that this is a correct. This is like the same version, so do not create a new plugin. Is instead replace the old files. Correct?
That's right. That's right.
It's an ID tag.
That's right. That's right. It's a unique. It's like a fingerprint for the plugin.
Oh, okay. It's a fingerprint. We need to generate the fingerprint at first, though.
That's right. Yeah, we did that manually.
Oh, okay. So essentially, we need to run it manually, and then we could start taking advantage of the plugin. Sorry, not the plugin, the shortcut.
That's absolutely right. That's a limit. That's, to my understanding, that's a limitation of Kintone Plugin Packer, which when you are, you can't, if you run the same command, Kintone Plugin Packer, and then just tell it to spit out a plugin. Every time you do that, it'll spit out a new version of the plugin with multiple fingerprints.
Yes,
so
yes.
What you need to do is so we've got actually 2 use cases for Kintone Plugin Packer. The first is generate a unique fingerprint, and the second is use the existing fingerprint. And so those are 2 different commands for Kintone Plugin Packer.
And
what we're doing over here is we're automating something, so it's going to be 1 command.
Okay.
Got it? So here's the command, and I'm going to go ahead and save. And what we should expect to see is npm run pack. That'll enable us to successfully pack the plugin. And so we're running it. Here we are, we're running it. And how are we doing? Succeeded.
Okay.
Great.
Hey.
We needed a win.
Okay. Absolutely.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to create another one called upload. Okay. And here's where things might get a little bit crazy. Okay. So first thing we're gonna do is what we want to do is we upload. Remember, we're going to be using Kintone Plug-in Uploader. Okay. And Kintone Plug-in Uploader is going to ask us, where is this plugin? Oh, let me grab the relative path. Okay, there it is. And we're going to use some flags over here to automate. So what's the base URL? Well, we've dropped it in the environmental variable file, in that end file. So we need to indicate that there's a variable over here, which we're going to do with these ampersands. Okay, and what about the username? Well, we're going to do the same thing. Kintone user. And then we're going to do the same thing with password. password. Okay. Kintone password. Okay. So here we've got some placeholders for some variables, but we actually need something to interpret these placeholders and like reach into that env file and drop and like and associate the values of the variables in there with the placeholders over here. With me so far?
Yes.
Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use .env for that. Now we can use .env,
Okay,
and
okay.
we're going to use this flag. Okay, this flag is going to, what it does is it tells .env, it like separates it's a flag that separates the flags of .env from the flags inside the internal command. In other words, we're running Kintone Plug-in Uploader inside of .env. So this little tag over here just says, okay, everything after here, all of these flags don't belong to .env, they belong to Kintone Plug-in Uploader. Okay? We're going to add another small complication, which is we're actually going to run crossvar in here to make sure that we're interpreting environmental variables appropriately according to no matter what our operating system is. Okay.
Oh shoot.
Let's go ahead and we'll see this.
I got those two confused. Oh, go. Oh, sorry. Now everything clicked. Yeah. .n. You're getting that file information. Crossvar is okay. Sorry. Thank you.
Crossvar lets us use these. Did I say ampersands? I meant percent sign. Crossvar says whether you're in a Windows environment or a Mac environment, this is a variable. Okay, and then .env is going to be the thing that says, okay, I want you to map our existing values in this file called env to the placeholders over here. So let's check to see if this works. And what we're going to do is we're going to do npm run upload. And take a look at what's happening. We've got this command that's running. And well, let's see how we're doing.
Please.
So my expected result over here is that Kintone Plug-in Uploader will begin logging to the console. That yep, there we go. We're logging in. We're trying this. We're navigating here. So look, we successfully logged in. Look, we're trying to upload plugin.zip. Now I gotta say, when I did this, when I was doing this to prep for today's session, I got timeout errors, and I wasn't, and the file size of this plugin is quite small. It's not a problem. It's 57 kilobytes. But for some reason, I was getting these timeout errors earlier. So it's possible I might get them again. I believe we encountered these errors before.
Yes,
and
yes, we have.
By just trying again. And then magic happened somewhere. Now, I'm not optimistic given the timing and the delay of getting this up and running. I feel like we should already be successfully uploading by now. So it's possible we might encounter a timeout error. When I looked on GitHub for the issue, it seems to like they just the response was, to increase the timeout error. It increased the parameters before timeout errors.
Essentially, it's just taking longer than the programmers was expecting originally.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, I don't know where to take it from here other than to try again. But we are out of time for today. So what I will say is this. We've created a .env file. We created 2 new commands for our build pipeline, pack and upload. We created a manifest JSON file that like Frankenstein the React boilerplate with the Kintone boilerplate, the manifest file. And then what I would say is what we can do from here is we could run like a command called build all. And what it'll do is we can say build and pack and upload. And we can do it sequentially. Now, I just blanked on whether it's 1 ampersand or 2 ampersands. The difference is
I believe 2.
One of them is going to run it sequentially, and the other will run these in parallel. What we actually need is they run in parallel. Do you remember which one?
Yeah, I believe. Oh, we want them as parallel. Oh, shoot. Now I'm less confident. I thought if you want to run them sequentially, it is 2
I
ends.
do want to run them sequentially. Now, typically, I actually don't even I use another package called npm run all, and then I run it, and then I just I'll include that npm. I'll include like run all over here. But I'm going to quickly look up.
Yeah. So 2 and signs would be doing first command and then second command, assuming the first didn't have an error. Only using one, it'll run it both at the same time and back them.
Got you. Great. So yes, the first doing it sequentially, I'll need these double ampersands. Okay. So let's take a look. We'll do npm run build all. And what I'm expecting is first I'll run that npm build script. Build and pack and let me just quickly try this bad boy. What am I missing over here? It might just be, I might just need build. I'm blanking on this. I don't think. Oh. Okay. Yeah. This is what the issue is. I actually run a package over here, as I was saying, called npm run install run all, which allows me to just hold on 1 second.
Oh, this would allow you to essentially simplify the commands.
Yeah, to use that syntax. So that's what we're running into over here. I was saying, hey, let's skip installing this command, but actually, I'm used to it already. So what?
Just double checking. My understanding would be putting an npm for each other command you're referring to would be okay, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, exactly. That was npm run pack, npm run upload.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm mistaken, but that was my understanding.
I think that's my understanding as well. Let's try it this way. And then we can always try it the other way. So let's do npm run build all.
Please work.
All right.
Yay. Okay.
So now, so as this is working through the build pipeline, I want to say that there's an open question that I have not been able to figure out, which is to set up this environment to watch changes and propagate the changes automatically. So in other words, when I am touching my source files, that the build that the build files are being updated automatically, that they're watching my source directory, that once those files are done being built, that then they are being packaged into a plugin automatically, and then they are being uploaded automatically.
Sorry, maybe I misheard, but you're trying to you had difficulty using the watch option on the Kintone plugin packer and uploader. Is that what you're saying?
At the same time,
At the same
but they're
time.
not. That's weird because they're sort of like if I'm using a watch command, then what's happening is that command is running and it actually is persisting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so there is a way in which I think that to run in parallel, like you're watching the same file, you're watching the same directory. But at the same time, I also need them to observe an order because the build watch section needs to happen uh,
Mm.
before the package run section. That needs to happen before
Ah,
the
yes, yes, yes.
upload section. So I haven't wrapped my arms around. I haven't wrapped my arms around that quite yet.
Okay.
But if you'll notice what's happening with our command line right now, we just finished doing the build, and now the the plugin is being packaged, which has been done successfully, and now
Mm-hmm.
the upload is happening as well. You'll notice again we've got these variables. This can be done in a Windows environment or in a Mac environment. That's the beauty of Crossbar, and this is happening automatically. So this is like we're now inside of like a cool build pipeline. There's certainly some tweaks that we can make, um, but like I'm hands free right now. I just we're here talking while this build pipeline's working. So I think this plugin.zip is going to we're going to try uploading it. All of our credentials are valid, which is why we're getting to this trying to upload
Mm-hmm.
segment. There's nothing, we didn't get thrown any username, password errors. We didn't get thrown any URL errors. So this is something that's happening on the server side, or it's an error, or it's an issue with the package itself. In any case, I don't think we're going to beat this today. So what I think it's a good place to leave over here. To sum up what we learned. So Genji, I'm gonna pass the ball to you. What did you learn today?
Oh, let me take a look. So we went over. Wow, we went over a lot. Um, Here I have the notes for. We went over, talking about the developer tools that we offer to Kintone plugin developers. Please check them out. We went over the purpose of manifest and how we need to modify them to account for our files in various locations, as well as the files that we need to refer to after running npm run build. We talked about what's inside the build folder, the fact that it was generated from that npm run build command, webpack, taking in the React JSX files and generating the appropriate JS files. Then we went over. We went over how to figure out the Babel error, and then .env, creating the .env file, and the environmental file, putting in the Kintone login credentials. Make sure to add that into the git ignore to not upload your private credentials up to GitHub. Then we went over installing .env command line tool and cross variable, both used right here in the package.json folder when writing up our pack and upload build all commands. Is that commands? And finally, we went over the importance of the fingerprint for our plugin with --ppk option. I think that pretty much sums it up. I learned a lot. I knew of the ppk option, but never used it. So now I know I'm more confident. Now I'm confident in using it. Crossbar and .env command line tools. Yeah, I'm definitely going to use that. That's very useful. I had an issue of writing up a command and just didn't work on Windows. Now I know. I didn't realize it was environmental, variables not being referred to correctly. So yeah, thank you. This is we went through quite a few topics in the process of establishing these three commands.
Yeah, great. Now before we wrap, I want to say one other thing, which is I want to leave us with the landscape of what we're facing next time. So first is we're facing a build pipeline that has not yet been proven to work due to these timeout errors. It's all well and good for me to casually say, "Hey, this must be a problem with the packet, with the tool or with the server," but like that doesn't fix it. So we can come back in a few days' time and see if it'll work again. But if this is like an ongoing issue, then then it just doesn't work. We're gonna need to try something else and communicate accordingly on GitHub. So that's an issue. Another issue is like, how can we get these commands to work while like we're watching something? So typically, if you're running a watch command for a tool, it'll you'll run 3 different terminal tabs for it. I'm wondering if we can run the commands in parallel and have them all watch the same thing in the same terminal window. So that'll be an interesting thing for us to take a look at. And then, of course, we're gonna need to actually do the coding. All this stuff is like development operations. It's all DevOps stuff. I happen to like this a lot. Not everybody does. But the thought of like learning how to automate and automating coding is just it's exciting to me.
Sounds good.
So Great. So I want to thank you for joining us, Genji. There's a lot of content on this and our time together today. Maybe we can split it into 2, and a part 1 and a part 2. Maybe not. I'll leave that for you. And I just want to thank you for spending the time with me today to get into the bones of how we're going to Frankenstein these 2 templates together.
All right. Have a nice day.
Yeah. On behalf of all of us here at Kintone and its parent company, Cybos, thank you very much for being with us, and we will see you next time.